Ever catch yourself like daydreaming about making money from your podcast? Earning while chatting about stuff you love.
Especially your pajamas, right?
Exactly. And the cool thing is, it's totally doable. We're diving into Think Media's take on podcast monetization today, and they're all about that action, no fluff. They actually walk the walk.
Yeah, what I like about their approach is they really hammer home having a solid business plan from day one. So many podcasters, they just kind of jump into the deep end without, like, a life vest. Gonna get you that life vest today.
I love that. Okay, so before we even think about merch or anything, Think Media's got two must-dos before you even think about monetizing. First up, being everywhere. Your podcast's got to be on every platform.
It's like, you can't sell a secret. No matter how good your content is, people got to be able to find it. We're talking Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it.
And speaking of being everywhere, that's where our friends at Buzzsprout come in. Makes distribution a breeze. But it's not enough to just throw it out there, right? The second must-do is knowing your audience. Think Media is a great example.
They've really nailed their niche. Entrepreneurs who want to learn about video, personal branding, all that. They don't try to be everything to everyone, which I feel like trips up a lot of new podcasters.
Yeah, that focus makes their content so much stronger. But how does knowing your audience translate to, like, actually making money?
Think of it this way. Your audience, they're your customer base, essentially. When you get what they need, what their pain points are, what they want, then you're in a better place to offer solutions they might actually pay for down the line.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not about being salesy right away. It's about, like, building those connections. You got to know who you're serving to serve them well, right? Which brings us to the fun part, how to actually make money. Think Media has 7 ways to turn your podcast into profit, and some are surprisingly creative.
I think the most unexpected methods are often the most interesting,
Totally. So let's start with number 1, coaching and consulting. Seems kind of obvious for a business coach to do with their podcast, but Think Media gives this example. Ryan Pineda, a real estate investor, he offers coaching, but also golfing trips, leveraging his expertise in a fun way.
What's cool about that is he's not trying to be some, like, guru on a pedestal. It's about figuring out what you bring to the table and making it work for your audience. This can work for any niche, even ones you wouldn't think of for coaching.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How would that work for other niches?
Imagine a podcast, say, about knitting. Not something you'd usually think of for coaching, right? But they could do workshops, like virtual knit-alongs, or even help design custom patterns. It's about tapping into what your listeners actually want.
I'd totally sign up for a virtual knit-along. That sounds fun and a great way to connect with people. All right, next up is method number 2, also about sharing what you know, online courses. Think Media's got this down.
They've really made it a science. I think Media's built a whole thing around packing their knowledge into courses. One smart thing they do is offer a free class as a kind of teaser.
Like a free sample at the ice cream store. Makes you want more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like ice cream, courses come at different price points. Could be a cheap intro, could be a high-ticket premium thing. You got to experiment and see what works for your audience and the value you're giving.
Right. You don't want to aim too high or too low.
Yep. And the earning potential is huge. Vanessa Lau, for example, she's made 7 figures incorporating online courses. Pretty inspiring.
7 figures? Whoa. Okay, you've got my attention. Okay, next up, something that's everywhere in podcasting now. Affiliate marketing. Think Media says almost 30% of their income is from this, but they're clear it's not just about slapping any Amazon link in your show notes.
You got to be smart and, most importantly, genuine. Think Media really emphasizes only recommending stuff you actually use and believe in. That builds trust with your listeners. They even shout out Buzzsprout's affiliate marketplace as a good resource for finding relevant partnerships.
Buzzsprout, always on point. But yeah, authenticity is key. Listeners can spot a fake recommendation a mile away.
Okay, ready for number 4. This one sounds fancy but comes with a warning: brand partnerships.
This is the classic sponsored by model, where companies pay to be featured on your podcast. It can be super lucrative, but here's the thing. It's not something you can rely on as a brand new podcaster.
Right, you got to build something first.
Exactly. Think Media is super clear about this. Grow your influence and audience first. Brands want to see that you have dedicated listeners before they'll invest. So it's more of a long game, like build it and they will come, but for podcasting.
Exactly. And when they do come knocking, be picky. Choose brands that fit with your podcast's values and your audience. Angie Lee is a good example. She partners with companies that make sense for her podcast, like CBD brands or entrepreneur-focused software like Kajabi.
So again, it's about being authentic. It's not just about grabbing any sponsorship you can get.
Definitely. You want your listeners to trust you. And that means choosing carefully who you work with.
Speaking of authenticity, let's move on to number 5, which lets listeners directly support you. Merchandise.
Yes, podcast merch. It's become a big thing, and Think Media highlights a great example, the Verity podcast.
What I think is so smart about their approach is they didn't just do T-shirts or mugs with a logo.
Right? They've got merch that's really specific to their niche, like Bible studies, mugs with quotes from the show, even study guides that go along with episodes.
And what I love is the host is super upfront about it. She's like, hey, buying this helps me make the free stuff. And it really resonates, People want to support that.
Totally. It's like this nice give and take. Everyone wins. It shows how to do merch right, not just slap a logo on something.
For sure. It's got to be meaningful, deepen that connection. Okay, on to number 6, which kind of takes that connection even further, premium or exclusive content. A lot of folks do this on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon's awesome for those super fans who want to support you directly. You can share bonus stuff, behind-the-scenes things, or just give them a way to, contribute to the show.
It's almost like a little club, for people who really connect with the content and want to go deeper.
Definitely builds that community feeling. And if anyone's thinking about Patreon strategy, Think Media actually has some really in-depth guides on their YouTube, by the way.
Oh, good to know. Speaking of YouTube, that takes us to their last monetization method. And it's a big one, repurposing your podcast for YouTube.
It's surprising how many people don't even think about this.
Yeah.
Why limit yourself to just audio when you can reach so many more people?
Right. It's like double dipping. Think Media is a perfect example. They've got a whole channel just for their podcast, over 50,000 subscribers, making money from ads.
And don't worry if you're not a video pro. Video quality isn't everything, especially when you're starting out. Think Media even has a video about this on their channel for beginners.
No excuses then. You can literally just hit record on your phone and get started.
Exactly. It's all about taking that first step.
Yeah.
And podcasting is perfect for video. You're already having these great conversations. Just got to capture them visually, too.
So true. Okay, so quick recap of Think Media's monetization wisdom: coaching, online courses, affiliate marketing, brand partnerships, merch, premium content, and YouTube.
That's a lot of options.
Yeah.
And the best part is you don't have to do them all at once.
Yeah, it's about picking what works for you, what you're good at, and most importantly, what your audience is into.
It's a process, kind of like this deep dive.
Yeah.
You got to explore and see what you find.
What I like about Think Media is it never feels like they're pushing some, get-rich-quick thing. It's about finding what fits you, your skills, what your audience actually wants.
And it makes that whole making money in your pajamas dream feel like actually within reach.
Totally. And it's not even just about the money, is it? It's the freedom, being your own boss, all that.
Exactly. Building something meaningful, sharing what you love.
So thinking about all these monetization methods, what speaks to you the most? What are you most curious about? What fits your podcast?
That's the big question, right? Is it coaching, getting that one-on-one connection, or maybe online courses, reaching more people, or even the merch thing, getting creative?
Maybe it's building that super fan community with exclusive content or going big on YouTube. So many options.
The important thing is to pick what excites you, what feels right for your goals.
And remember, it's all about trying things out. Don't be afraid to experiment, adjust as you go, and most importantly, listen to your listeners.
Couldn't agree more. Stay curious. Keep learning, because the podcasting world never sits still.
Well, this deep dive has been awesome. We've gone through the why, the how, all the ways to make money podcasting. Hopefully you're feeling inspired, ready to take your own show to the next level.
And remember, the most important step is that first one. So what action will you take today to make those podcasting dreams a reality?
Until next time, happy podcasting.